My name is Chris Septer. I'm the Executive Director at the South Florida SPCA, the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I am not the founder of this organization. I am the Executive Director. I am a part of the legacy of people who have helped keep this rescue continuing. We started in 1992 in response to all the horses that were lost, wounded, and otherwise abandoned as a result of Hurricane Andrew. So we've been around 33 years. One of our founders still does work for us as our rescue coordinator. But I am just one of many, many people who have held and helped and supported this organization in the 33 years we've been here serving all the animals of South Florida. Our mission is to rescue, rehabilitate, and safely rehome across the country horses and livestock and other animals as they come into our care. Our goal is to be available 24/7. We work in partnership with the Miami-Dade Agricultural Police Unit and Miami-Dade Animal Services in responding to abused, abandoned, and other cruelty situations for horses and other non-dog, non-cat, non-wildlife animals within Miami-Dade County. The first two animals that I remember when I first started here was Helen, a pony who was in horrible condition and had been abandoned, and another horse by the name of Flying Liberty, who had been a racehorse, who we found in deplorable conditions and had to remove from the owner and charged them with cruelty. It just profoundly affected my heart to know that people could allow animals to come into such a horrific condition or even be contained and owned under the circumstances as it related to like Flying Liberty. Belief that humans would allow that kind of cruelty to happen. In the case of Helen, she was abandoned. She was found wandering, and as it relates to Flying Liberty, he was actually owned and being kept in just unjustifiable conditions. And I just couldn't believe that people could come to such low with animals who are, reliant on us to care for them. So all our animals come to us as a result of abandonment or cruelty. So we have seen some horrific situations. We've seen horses dumped. We've found them wandering at large on canals, down the street, emaciated. But we've also found animals where they were being owned and, in theory, in quote, cared for by owners where the conditions were horrific. We have found them in illegal dump sites. We have found them where there's been fires and trash, mud. It's just amazing the types of situations that animals can find themselves in through no fault of their own. And those are the animals that we receive and care for. For us, rescue is a situation where, again, we work in conjunction with law enforcement and animal services. So oftentimes a good Samaritan is the person who calls and reports either a found animal, a seen animal, or even someone they're aware of that's not properly caring for an animal. And that's when we come on the scene. We are involved in receiving all kinds of situations. There's not one particular situation we deal with. We've had them abandoned, we've had them wandering the streets, and we've had to go into facilities or homes or places where those animals are kept and remove them from that situation. As soon as an animal comes into the South Florida SPCA, if it's a horse, the first thing we do is treat it for parasite control, so as not to contaminate the grounds. Then they are kept in quarantine until we know that they don't have any communicable diseases. Depending upon their condition, they are immediately seen by a veterinarian, a farrier, or a dentist, depending upon the animal. Sometimes if it's goats or cows or sheep, then we do, again, the parasite control, but we can generally maintain their hooves, through our own trained staff. If they are infirm or sick, then we get them veterinary care. So we basically, all animals receive kind of a protocol of taking care of parasites, and then veterinary care is needed. And specifically in the case of horses, dental care is needed, because oftentimes we receive animals that have not had proper dental care for a very long time. So assessment for their physical and emotional needs. Okay, the physical is easy enough in the sense that you can see it and you can identify it easily through their weight, the care of their hooves, their eye rims, their lip color, and a veterinarian. The emotional is a little more complicated. Many of these animals come in with having experienced abuse, physical abuse. So sometimes we have horses that come in and are fearful of men in specific, or they don't want to be caught because they don't trust. So one of our specific charges on behalf of these animals is to rebuild their trust of humans. We use our volunteer program to help us facilitate that. And of course, our staff is properly trained in interactions so as not to cause further distrust or further emotional damage, because many of them come with emotional issues that we have to overcome in order to get them prepared to be adopted. And so emotional is definitely part of the rehabilitation process. So that can be a function of refeeding. It's a very specific process to refeed an emaciated animal. Obviously, if there's a medical situation, then it's a function of whatever veterinary care is needed. And sometimes that's very long term. It can take a while to rehabilitate any specific horse. And then it's the emotional. And that's done through our trainer, through positive reinforcement, wonderful interactions with humans that are kind and gentle, and ensuring that the horse feels safe and able to have some dominion over what happens to itself, so that it can be empowered to be at peace and feel safe in its new environment. Helen, the pony I mentioned earlier, would be a great example of coming full circle. We found her wandering, and obviously in terrible state of neglect. We were able to, over the course of time, correct her feet so that she was not experiencing any pain or discomfort based on the fact that her feet looked like little leprechaun shoes. We were able to treat her eye situation, although we were not able to restore her sight. We shaved her of all her excess hair, which in the South Florida heat was definitely not something that was good for her health. And then we were able to put weight on her. Through the course of time, she became more trusting of humans, although she was going to need special needs, for the duration of her life. And she was a senior pony, so many people were not going to be prepared to take that on as an individual owner. We were blessed enough to be able to retire her to a facility we work in collaboration with called the Retirement Home for Horses in Alachua, Florida. They have a facility, a wonderful and beautiful facility for retired horses, and they only take horses from rescues or retired law enforcement animals. So as of today and this interview, Helen is still alive. She is blind, but she is living her best life in green pastures in Alachua, and the Retirement Home for Horses is taking care of her and making sure she has a sighted horse buddy just to live out her dream of being a little pony who's loved. Horse rescue is extraordinarily important, as is all rescue, because these animals are sentient beings who experience many of the same emotions as humans: fear, trust, discomfort from starvation, pain, suffering. So rescuing animals, and horses in specific, is a very important mission in life. It's a calling to serve the animals that basically rely on human constructs to take care of them. They are not able to do that on their own. So horses are a special animal. Many people who love horses, who come to the rescue from the humans, have never owned a horse, but have always loved them and want to interact with them and help us, build trust in these animals so that they can go on to a second life in whatever venue or in whatever form that adopter sees fit. And so it's very important for all the rescue organizations and for all the animals, because they are not able to take care of themselves. They're like children. They are a vulnerable population, and horses really count on humans to do the right thing. I would like to convey the message that all rescue matters. Animals are sentient beings, all of them. And through working at the SPCA, I now know even more than I knew before I came here. The ability for animals to relate to humans, to have meaningful and fulfilling relationships with humans, and that they count on us, and that they are grateful. That gratitude has been expressed in many ways through the course of time, through the animals we have rescued. And to see horses, and other animals for that matter, blossom and become something they weren't when they first got here is extraordinarily gratifying and heartwarming. So anybody who has the heart for the animals will understand that rescue is an important calling in life. I once gave a talk about art as it related to animals, and I said that art is subject to personal interpretation, and animal rescue is the same. However, if I have to explain that interpretation to you, then you just probably don't really understand it. It starts with a formal application, a written application. Within the application, we ask for pictures of your existing animals. We ask you for references, both people and service providers for the animal. We ask where the animal will be kept. Will they have animal friends? Because virtually every animal we encounter is a herd-based animal, which means they do need and do require, for their own mental health, other animals of their nature, so they can form bonds and relationships. So our application is pretty well rounded in the sense that we ask you a lot of different things in the goal of properly matching you to the proper animal, and so that those animals do not end up back in the same situation. When placing a horse, we're looking for someone who understands the cost of owning a horse. That's one challenge. It's a significant challenge, and so we do delve into that. We want someone who really understands that these horses may or may not, depending on the horse, have some residual challenges as a result of their prior circumstances. So we're really, we're kind of like matchmakers in the sense that you can't just come here, say, I want a horse, I like that one, and I'll take it. It's much more involved in that. We really try hard to make sure that all stories are success stories and that everyone is happy, the horse and the human. So it's a process. It's not a one step, just we'll take it because we can afford the adoption fee. We do check in, we do follow-ups for our adopters. We check in, we ask for photos, we want to know, if there's any challenges. When we have people call us about specific either medical and maybe perhaps looking for a medical history or behavioral challenges, we do what we can to be supportive. So as it relates to horses, special needs is kind of a very limiting thing. At the expense of owning a horse, if it is not rideable, it's going to take much longer to be adopted as just a large companion-only lawn ornament. We have successfully had horses that are what I would call high anxiety, really should not be ridden because they can't tolerate it emotionally. Those horses have been adopted successfully as companion only to horses that are rideable horses within a home. But we also have a case right here now, here at the facility. We have a pony named Tiny Tim, and he's named Tiny Tim after the story of the Christmas Carol because he has a prosthetic. This pony was found wandering on the canal bank. He appeared to have a broken ankle, but what he really had was what they call subluxated tendons. He was suffered a dog attack, which caused one of his back legs to shorten and bend in a unnatural way. So without this prosthetic, this pony would have no quality of life. And because he does have this maintenance routine, and we had the ability to have a special custom-made prosthetic made for Tiny Tim, he resides here at the South Florida SPCA. Most people are not going to adopt a horse that costs what it does to own, that has more special needs than just trying to move past its anxiety. Because again, the cost, the expense, the long-term medical care, or the outlet needed to create support for the horse, such as Tiny Tim's prosthetic. So that question is kind of a two-part question in that if it's too special needs, it's not going to be adopted. If it is special needs on a manageable level, then yes, we can get them adopted often as companion only. So there's a couple things, but the first and most paramount thing that challenges horse rescue is horses are perceived as a luxury item by most of the human race. They're kind of like, I can rescue dogs and cats, parrots, wildlife, rehab, before they're going to consider horse rescue a valid rescue. Because again, horses are perceived in their natural state as a luxury item. So that is a very meaningful challenge as it relates to philanthropy and donations. And the other challenge we specifically have is the agricultural areas in South Dade and Miami-Dade are shrinking. So service providers are shrinking, land that's suitable for horses is shrinking. So it is a challenge, and as economic constraints get tighter and tighter, more horses get dumped. Because there isn't a shelter where you can turn in or surrender your horse. We do not take owner surrender. All our animals come as a result of abandonment or cruelty. So it's a challenge in both ends of it. Basically, the perception of horse ownership in the first place, and then what to do with your horse when you can no longer sustain it. So those are challenges for us as well because of having to raise funds to maintain the cost and care of the horses we have and continue to get. We collaborate with multiple organizations, sanctuaries for our farm animals, our livestock, the cows that get dumped and abandoned, the goats that get found wandering and starved, the sheep, other than horses. So we work in collaboration with many sanctuaries trying to get them permanent, safe homes. And then as it relates to the horses, we have to work with other organizations such as the Equus Foundation, the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance organization, who are charged with the general scope of horse welfare. So we collaborate with multiple organizations on behalf of the horses. We try to educate people as to what the care is. Also through our adoption process, we try to make sure that people are fully aware. And then, we do things that help advocate for all animals, because many, many animals and many species have these challenges. So as it relates to advocating, we are involved with, sometimes with local ordinances. We work with law enforcement as it relates to horse slaughter, which is a problem in Miami-Dade County, horse theft and slaughter. And then we also do a lot of outreach and community-based organizations. We have people come to the ranch and we do horse instruction. Then we have interactions, hands-on with the horses. And then we also go to different events and different programs, and we provide speakers if needed or requested as it relates to the horses and why it matters to save a horse's life. So it's an interesting question to ask about the other farm animals because prior to coming to the South Florida SPCA, I have always been a horse and dog girl. But coming here, I have interacted now with goats, sheep, cows, pigeons, chickens, and I have become fully aware based on actual relationships with chickens, with goats, with pigeons, and cows. And I know that may sound odd, but it is in fact the truth, as much of our staff will attest. These animals are sentient beings with intelligence, with the capacity for relationships and communication. Mind you, of course, it is not speaking a language of humans. It is not to the full capacity of a human, but they are not diminished in their capacity to have relationships, to show expression of happy, sad, needs. So working here hands-on, you come to realize that while these animals may or may not be a part of the food chain, or they may or may not be pets, they all have a full capacity to have a quality of life that is equal to humans. We engage with the community. Again, it goes back to outreach. We have people here at the ranch. We do tours. We participate with other organizations to talk about rescue. We work with our local government to help create opportunities for the public to have hands-on. We have our open house annually where we bring people in and have them engage with the animals so that they can see the full capacity of these animals to be something other than just food or just someone else's lawn ornament. And so we're pretty much open to whatever suggestions or opportunities come our way so that we can always carry that message forward. So as it relates to educational initiatives, I would say that's mostly through our volunteer program at this time. We're very small staff and we really aren't able to participate in, say, creating a school curriculum or something to that magnitude. However, we do have a very educationally oriented volunteer manual, and we do, like I say, do outreach, and we provide that manual that includes behavioral aspects, veterinary aspects, physiology, and things that, basic horse care, basic horse safety. So whenever we get the opportunity, we provide educational materials, and we do, like I say, a lot of community outreach, both as requested and both initiated by us. Well, horse rescues, I would say as a whole, I'm not going to say they don't work together, because they do. And there's many umbrella organizations to come under as a horse rescue, or at least several anyway. And so people share ideas, how to raise funds, how to, best care, modern medicine, because medicine, veterinary care is always evolving. Rehabilitation skills, there are a lot of aspects to rehabilitation. Continuing the science of behavioral applications, we here believe in positive reinforcement. And so all of these things are an ongoing lifelong learning situation, and all of the organizations like to share. And there's the United Horse Coalition, there's again the Equus Foundation and the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, just to name a few that are specific to the equine world. To get involved with our organization, generally speaking, most people directly come through the volunteer program. All of that information is contained within our website. First, you come to a 2-hour orientation, and then we have a volunteer coordinator, and we'll train you and get you to a level of being safe. And then you can kind of have a bit of a carte blanche around the ranch. So our volunteer program is very robust, very important as a supportive tool for our staff and the animals specifically. They're learning to trust again. And then as far as the support that we need, we always can use more volunteers. And then financial. But also, one of the other ways we can always benefit is from service providers, massage therapists, various modalities, chiropractic, the supportive therapies for horses that have suffered some kind of injury or that are physically rehabilitating as opposed to mentally rehabilitating, because we have horses that need either one or both. So those modalities, those supportive care, acupuncture, can always benefit the animals we have here. So basically, the support we need is always financial. That's never different for any rescue of any animal species. Then the volunteer program, and then service providers who can help support the general welfare of the animals that we are charged with taking care of. So probably our next biggest event will be our open house, which is Saturday, March 7th. That's when we open the ranch to the public. We look for vendors that have animal-specific products. We don't charge for vendor space. We do ask that if you have a successful day, that you would make a donation back to the organization for the ability to have the exposure and the participation. So that's right now, that's the biggest thing on our calendar. That'll be, next year in 2026. We're winding down at this point this year because it's, mid-December basically. But the open house will be Saturday, March 7th. It starts at 12 o'clock, goes till 4 o'clock. And if anyone wants to reach out, and as far as participation, by all means, they can reach out through my email, which is chris@helpthehorses.org. And we have dog rescues who come. Animal Services is here. We have dogs and cats that are available for adoption on that day. And then anyone who's interested in a horse still has to apply. You cannot adopt in the same day, but certainly if you see someone you're interested in, you're more than welcome to inquire about the adoption. I would like to say that all animals, farm or otherwise, have a capacity to be aware of a relationship with you as a human. I've had, since working here, I have had a relationship with 2 goats. Mind you, they come in here wild. And I say wild in the sense of they've been on a farm as a livestock animal, an intended meat animal. I've had chickens that still to this day, we have a chicken that was part of a rescue who every day comes into the office with great expectation, and she gets little worm treats because that's a chicken's kind of thing. So know that these animals, they understand fear, they understand care, and they understand compassion, and that it is our jobs as humans to steward the care of these animals in a way that gives them safe harbor, proper feeding, and allows them to be the animals they are within the constraints of who they are, but that they still can acknowledge that they have a relationship with you.